I'm Shevawn Akers, council member for the 2nd District. Today we're visiting McConnell Springs, located off of Old Frankfort Pike. And with me today is Stephen Rogers, park naturalist for the park. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to show people McConnell Springs and what we have to offer.
So tell us a little bit about the history of the park, when it was built, and
McConnell Springs is really the history of Lexington. This is the area where Lexington was named. William McConnell came into this area in 1775 and made an encampment, and then came back a few years later in 1779, and the area took the name based off of the first battle of the Revolutionary War in honor of the battle at Lexington, Massachusetts, and so they named their camp Lexington. When they came back and made a permanent settlement, they named their city after that camp. And so the importance of McConnell Springs is the importance of the city. It's really had a historical impact throughout the years. There's been a distillery that operated here, dairy farm, trotter horses, as well as a gunpowder factory that supplied gunpowder to the War of 1812. And it's been really influential in what's happened in the time here in Lexington. But more recently in the history of the park, this was an industrial wasteland of sorts until people realized the importance of our sinking and rising springs and the significance to the city. And this is actually our 20th year anniversary. The Friends of McConnell Springs came together and saved the property in 1994 and made it a park. And so this is our 20th anniversary, and now we're at LFUCG City Park, and we're open to the public. Everyone can come in and enjoy.
Great. And so you mentioned the springs, and that's the name of the park.
Yeah.
How many springs are located here, and tell us a little bit about the springs.
There are 2 artesian springs that are located at McConnell Springs. One is called the Blue Hole. That's where the water actually enters the park for the first time. It's a large sinkhole. It's about 15 feet deep. The water comes straight up, and because it's moving over limestone, it's not pulling sediment, so the water's clear. It gives a blue appearance. It's how it gets its name. It goes back underground and then comes up again at the boils, which is really similar to what we have going behind us here in our fountain. The boils is just a smaller crack in the ground where the water is forced up through a channel, and even though it kind of looks like a geyser at times, it's actually just the flow of gravity and the water coming up out of the ground.
Great. How much land is here at the park?
We have 26 acres. We're one of the 2 natural area parks that are staffed with the city, the other being Raven Run. We're really close to the city. We have 26 acres that are forested. We have a couple of different habitats that we show people. We have a forest, a wetland pond, and we have a meadow habitat.
And trails. Tell us about the trails and how long are the trails? What kind of trails are they?
We have 2 miles of trail. We have a half-mile paved loop, which is completely accessible to anyone. It's paved flat. Then we have some wood chip trails that take you to some of the other areas in the park that are not as accessible. There are some hills, so some tougher terrain, but completely open to the public from sunup to sundown.
Okay, that was my next question. So the hours are Monday through Friday or weekends and
No, we're open
everything?
7 days a week, so we're open even on the weekends and on Sundays. The building and our parking lot are open from 9 to 5 Monday through Saturday, and 1 to 5 on Sundays, but our trails are open from sunup to sundown. If the gates ever close, you can park on Redmond Lane and walk right in.
Great. And so the building that we're standing next to, the Educational Center, tell us, how long has that been here, and what kind of programming do you all provide in the center?
Yeah, the Kentucky American Water Education Center has been here since 1998 when they started raising the funds for that. And we provide all sorts of programming to the public that cover animals, plants, geology, history, and anything to cover the natural world that we have here in our park. If we talk about it inside, we like to bring people out and experience it in nature. Inside of our education center, we have exhibits that are open to the public. We have an interactive touchscreen exhibit that allows people to hear the animals and see some of the animals that live in the park. We have a history exhibit that shows a timeline of the area from settlement to now and what's happened in between there, and a lot of other interactive exhibits to get children engaged. And we have a bird blind area so that people can see the birds that live here in the park also.
Right, and so we see a group, it looks like, of a camp that's here today.
Yeah.
How many groups come throughout the school year as well as the summer? Do you offer specific programming in summer months as well?
Yeah, we offer programs to anyone that calls up and asks for one. All of our programs are free. We don't charge. So any school group that calls and wants to come in for a program, we discuss with the teacher or the coordinator what kind of program they want, what they want to focus on, whether it's habitats, adaptations, and we go from there. And it's the same for school groups and summer camps. We've had several summer camps so far.
And so I'm sure the education here, the science aspect and the natural aspect really supports the school curriculums and their core content requirements and all of that as well, right?
Absolutely. All of our programs go along with CARE standards. We want to make sure that the children are interacting with this environment, that they can see everything that's going on here, but we want to make sure we're doing it properly and we're doing it along with the standards that they get inside of their classroom.
So you mentioned earlier a wetland that's in the back. That's pretty new, correct?
Yeah, the wetland has only been here for a few years. What happened in the past, there was an area where water would flow into the back of our park, and that was really just polluted water that came from surrounding areas and roads. And so the Friends of McConnell Springs, which is a nonprofit group that is responsible for helping the park, all volunteer-based, they raised $500,000 to put in our wetland pond. And so now our wetland pond is a true wetland. The water that goes in there has an opportunity to stay in the pond, gets cleaned as a natural process of a wetland, and it's home to several species of turtle, birds, fish, as well as macroinvertebrates that you can find, damselflies, dragonflies, and a lot of insects that live around there also.
Wow. And then I know you all do the Founders Day event every year. Tell us a little bit about that. Founders
Day is a celebration not only of the park, but the founding of Lexington itself. And so we have a lot of period reenactors that come out around our park on that day. And whether they're a blacksmith or if they just set up a pioneer encampment, they show what these people did at that time. And so this past year we had over 700 people come out to our Founders Day event. And it was a really great celebration because this is our 20th year. We really wanted to make sure that a lot of people had an opportunity to see McConnell Springs.
And when is that held every year?
It's in May of every year, so we had it just a few months ago.
Just recently.
Yeah.
And you all are working on a cabin here at the park. Tell us about that.
We have two structures that show what the pioneers would have used during that time period. We have an open-faced cabin. Some people refer to them as lean-tos. It's more of a primitive structure that pioneers would have built for a short temporary stay. And then we have an improvement or a preemptive cabin that we built, which is a larger structure that they would have taken more time to build. And really what happened was when William McConnell and the other pioneers came here, the surveyors came here to claim land. This was part of Virginia, and so they could come into the area, build a structure, plant an acre of crops, usually corn or something like that, and after a time period, that land became theirs. And so the improvement cabin that we have, which is right behind us here, not far from our building, actually shows a representation of what they would have built during that time. This isn't a completely historical representation. There are some modifications that are a little bit different. We're trying to focus on the period of when William McConnell came here, the 1770s, but it's a very close representation that shows people what the pioneers had to deal with and how they lived.
It's very interesting, and you know, the fact that we have this kind of a park that preserves our history and reenacts the history, I guess, a couple times a year is a really great asset to Lexington and specifically to the 2nd District. Can you tell folks like where exactly you're located, how they would get here from maybe Leestown Road and the neighborhoods on the west
Absolutely.
end?
We're located right off of Old Frankfort Pike, and so if you're coming from New Circle, you get off and you come right down towards downtown, and it's off of McConnell Springs Road, and then we're actually located off of Redmond Lane. And it's a short drive from downtown, and it's not a far drive from anywhere. We're between South Forbes and the Humane Society, which is right down the road.
Great, great. Okay. So tell us a little bit about the wildlife and the flora and all of that stuff here. When I pulled in, I noticed there was lots of beautiful flowers and vegetation, and it's really beautiful here. So tell us a little bit about all of that around the park.
Well, as you can see behind us, this is a native garden, and so we try to have native plants growing here to try to encourage the animals to come to this area. A lot of the animals that we see here are going to be urban animals that you would probably see near your house, around your house. We do have deer, raccoon, possum, fox. So we do have larger mammals. Groundhog and squirrel are probably the most common that you would see. We have a lot of groundhog and squirrel.
Yeah.
But we do have a bird population that's pretty healthy. We see during migration patterns, we see well over 50 species of birds come into the park. Large birds, small birds, and we have raptors that come in, birds of prey. And so it's really interesting the diversity of animals that we can have in such a small place so close to a downtown area of the city. And the plants that you see here, we've been working for the past 30 years since this was really an idea, even before this was a park. We've been working to try to reintroduce some of the native plants, because when people forgot about this area and let it fall to the side, non-native plants made their way in here, like bush honeysuckle and winter creeper, which is a ground cover plant that we have. And so we removed those plants to try to reintroduce some of the native plants so that we can bring in some of the butterflies and other animals to bring in more animals as a food source.
That's great. So again, I want to invite everyone to come out and check out McConnell Springs. If you haven't been here, it's a great asset, close to downtown, really close to all the neighborhoods on the west end. Bring your families, bring your strollers. No pets though, correct? Pets?
Yeah, we don't allow dogs. We're one of the 2 parks that don't allow dogs here, just because we're a natural area.
Right.
And the pets can have an impact on the environment and potentially scare some of the animals here. Okay. And we don't allow bicycles on our trails just because our trail system's pretty small and we don't want to have any injuries.
Fragile.
Yeah.
Is there a website that you want to share?
You can check out our website. It's mcconnellsprings.org. And that is our Friends of McConnell Springs website that gives information about the park, and it has our calendar of events with upcoming programs that we have on the weekends here. And you can also check out the Parks and Recreation Facebook page and lexingtonky.gov. We have a Parks and Rec website there also. So there's a lot of different ways to check it out online and see what we have going on. And
phone number, if anybody wants to bring a group or schedule. And you'll actually take your information on the road too.
Yes, we can
so
go out.
If someone wants to schedule that, who would they call?
They would just call me here at the park. Our number is 859-225-4073. Just give us a call. Let us know what you have in mind, what you want for your group, and we would be glad to facilitate that.
Great. Thank you so much. It was really informative.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.